Have you ever heard of a sword so sharp, so cursed, that it was said to thirst for blood, even turning on its own master? Welcome to the dark legend of Muramasa, Japan's most infamous blade. In the West, we often talk about cursed items in fantasy stories like Excalibur's Dark Twin or the One Ring from Lord of the Rings. But Japan has its own version of these sinister objects, and none is more terrifying or more legendary than the swords forged by a man named Muramasa. Muramasa was a real person, a master swordsmith who lived during the late Muromachi period, around the 1500s. He founded a school of sword making in Aizu Province, what is now Mie Prefecture, near modern-day Nagoya. His blades were known not only for their unmatched sharpness, but for something far more disturbing. Some legends say that Muramasa poured his soul into his blades and that his own violent nature infected them. People began to whisper that the swords had a will of their own. Once drawn, they demanded blood, any blood. A samurai who unsheathed a Muramasa blade would be driven to kill, or to die trying. At first, Muramasa's swords were prized for their quality. They were sharp, balanced, and efficient, perfect for self-defense in a chaotic time. But over time, disturbing coincidences began to emerge. People who carried Muramasa blades died horribly. Not just warriors but lords, rulers, even members of the shogun's own family. In Japanese, a cursed or demonic sword is called a YT. Muramasa's creations became the most feared YT of them all. So much so that some samurai tried to scratch off the name Muramasa from their blades, hoping to escape the curse. It's said that a dragonfly once landed on a Muramasa blade and was sliced in half just by resting there. Another tale claims that once drawn from its sheath, the sword refused to be put away until it had tasted blood. These weren't just swords, they were demons, hidden in steel. But what made Muramasa truly legendary was its curse on one powerful family, the Tokugawa shogunate. The rulers of Japan from 1603 to 1868. For over 250 years, this family shaped the course of Japanese history. And Muramasa, it haunted them. Tokugawa Ieyasu, the founder of the Tokugawa dynasty, is said to have suffered many tragedies involving Muramasa swords. His father, his grandfather, and even his own son died allegedly by Muramasa blades. Coincidence or curse? One story claims that Ieyasu himself cut his hand with a Muramasa sword twice. Even though he supposedly liked the blade, people around him believed it brought misfortune. The sword became a symbol of death for the Tokugawa clan. Let's dive deeper into the curse. The Tokugawa clan didn't just fear Muramasa swords, they were haunted by them. Over generations, people close to the Tokugawa shoguns died, all connected to Muramasa blades. Coincidence? Maybe, but the deaths were so numerous and so dramatic that people started to whisper, "Muramasa wants Tokugawa blood." The first victim? Tokugawa Ieyasu's grandfather, Matsudaira Kiyoyasu. He was assassinated by his own vassal who used a Muramasa blade. Later, Ieyasu's father, Hirotada, was also murdered, again, with a Muramasa. His son, Nobuyasu, was ordered to commit seppuku, the execution blade, Muramasa. It was as if fate had chosen the sword to destroy the Tokugawa line. Even Ieyasu himself wasn't spared. Records say he accidentally cut his hand with a Muramasa sword twice. One time as a child, and another during the Battle of Sekigahara, Japan's most important civil war. It seemed like the sword was determined to taste his blood no matter what. As the Tokugawa shogunate solidified its power, the fear of Muramasa grew. Officials, guards, even artists began to associate the blade with death and rebellion. The government began to take action. Muramasa swords were declared taboo. Samurai who carried Muramasa blades were suspected of plotting against the shogun. In some cases, just downing gon was enough to be arrested or worse. People scratched off the Muramasa signature from their swords, hoping to avoid suspicion and doom. But here's the thing, Muramasa swords were really good. Sharp, durable, beautiful in their simplicity. And they were cheaper than most high-end blades. So even though the shogunate banned them, many people still used them secretly. Think of it like this, it's like owning a cursed artifact from a horror movie. You know it's dangerous, you know it's forbidden. But it's just too powerful to give up. Muramasa wasn't just a sword, it was a special grade cursed tool, as fans of Jujutsu Kaisen might say. These stories didn't stay in samurai circles. They spread through kabuki theater, storytelling, and folklore. Muramasa became Japan's boogeyman, a blade that kills indiscriminately and curses its owner. Even centuries later, its reputation remains. In Edo period theater, Muramasa was often used as a plot device to foreshadow betrayal or tragedy. When a character unsheathed a Muramasa, audiences gasped. Fake knew something terrible was about to happen. It was the Chekhov's gun of feudal Japan. What makes Muramasa so fascinating is this paradox. It's deadly, cursed, and tragic, but also admired for its craftsmanship. Like a haunted violin that plays beautifully but drives its player mad. This duality is what keeps Muramasa alive in Japan's cultural memory. Here's a twist. Despite all the horror stories, some say Tokugawa Ieyasu actually liked Muramasa swords. After all, he grew up in Mikawa, right next to Aiz where Muramasa blades were forged. For him, they weren't cursed, they were familiar. It's possible that Ieyasu didn't believe in the curse, but his advisors and vassals did. So they pushed for bans, censorship, and fear campaigns. Even today, we're not sure how Ieyasu really felt, but history remembers the fear more than the facts. Let's pause and ask, was Muramasa just a sword? Or something more? In modern terms, we might say it was cursed energy, a spiritual force embedded in steel. This is where fiction meets belief and where the real world touches the supernatural. In anime like Jujutsu Kaisen, special grade cursed tools are weapons infused with immense, dangerous energy. Muramasa fits that idea perfectly. It didn't just cut bodies, it broke destinies. Even today, people describe it as having a presence, as if something is still inside the blade. You might think that Muramasa is just a historical artifact now locked away in a museum, gathering dust. But that's not the case. Even in modern Japan, Muramasa blades exist, and people who've seen them up close often say they feel something. One sword collector in the 1990s described it like this. There's something in this blade, it's not just metal, it feels alive. Another expert who held a Muramasa said, I felt a pressure in the air as if the room got heavier. I started sweating. These aren't just poetic expressions. In Japan, spiritual presence kalidraki is a real concept. There's even a story about a modern swordsman who drew a Muramasa blade and said, I felt stronger, but also more violent. It was like the sword was whispering to me, urging me to swing it. Whether that's psychology, imagination, or something more, it gives you chills, doesn't it? Muramasa has become more than just a sword. It's now a cultural icon appearing in anime, manga, video games, and novels. From Fate or Grand Order to Touken Ranbu, from Nioh to Jujutsu Kaisen, Muramasa is everywhere. In Jujutsu Kaisen, there are weapons called Special Grade Cursed Tools. These are objects infused with so much negative energy that they can defeat even the most powerful enemies. Doesn't that sound a lot like Muramasa? Unstoppable, beautiful, and deadly beyond measure. In Fate, Muramasa appears as a character himself, a heroic spirit embodying the soul of the swordsmith. In Touken Ranbu, Muramasa is personified as a beautiful man with an unstable aura, deadly but alluring. These portrayals highlight what Muramasa has always symbolized: power mixed with danger, desire wrapped in death. Why are we still drawn to Muramasa? Because it speaks to something primal. The idea that a beautiful object can be cursed. That power always comes with a price. That a tool can change its user and not the other way around. Even though Muramasa was forged over 500 years ago, its legend is still growing. Each new story, each new appearance in pop culture, gives it fresh life. Muramasa is no longer just a sword, it's a myth, a mirror that reflects our fears, our greed, our hunger for power. And in that mirror, maybe we see a little of ourselves. So, was Muramasa really cursed? Or was it just a coincidence that blood followed its blade? Maybe it wasn't the sword that was cursed. Maybe it was us. In Japanese culture, a sword isn't just a weapon, it's a symbol of honor, of lineage, of the soul. Samurai believed their sword was an extension of themselves. So when tragedy struck, it was easy to blame the blade. What if the curse wasn't supernatural but emotional? What if Muramasa blades absorbed the anger, fear, and grief of those who wielded them? Passed from hand to hand, soaked in blood, saturated with sorrow. A mirror of the human psyche. Think about it. Muramasa didn't create violence. People did. But when the bloodshed became unbearable, they looked for something, anything to blame. And there, shining in their hands, was the perfect scapegoat. There's something especially terrifying about beauty that kills. A sword so perfectly made that it seems inhuman. Like a rose with poison thorns. Like a song that drives you mad. Like a lover who ruins you. Muramasa is that contradiction in steel. Muramasa. A name etched in steel and in memory. A blade that cuts not just flesh, but fate. Whether you believe in curses or not. One thing's for sure. This sword changed history.